But I want you to tell me if you ever thought, when you first started reading this one, that there'd be this fight with Avengers versus Avengers.
I know. Well, I want to say, you know, I had it all mapped out in my head. I've been on the whole roller coaster, you know, for years and years now. It's just been great. I think we're going into our 10th year. I remember the comic book series Civil War, and I thought, man, if we could pull that off, that'd be swell. But I didn't. It was never really in the docket of like, this is a definitive gonna happen Marvel movie. So no.
I look at you putting on the suit, or it goes on all over you. I just wonder if that brings the 9 or 10-year-old Robert out in you in those moments where it just is kind of cool. Do you see it through a kid's eyes?
I do, and also, you know, now there's kids that are visiting the set for a bunch of different reasons. So, and back on the second Avengers, the Age of Ultron that we did before this, my son Exton was visiting the set, and he was going bananas for all the Hawkeye stuff, and you know, he's kind of over it now because he knows that Dad's deeply invested in it, so it's a little bit less, you know, numinous to him.
There is this human conflict in the movie, and that's what I kept writing down in my notes, that it just seems so much more real than a lot of movies like this. So did you tell me about that human conflict, and then the conflict you have to deal with Steve Rogers, which is pretty emotional in this film?
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, there's so many people to credit. There's the way Jon Favreau set up just the first Iron Man movie, that it seemed like anything that's going to hinge off this world, we're going to pretend that somehow or other it could belong in this world. And then from the first Avengers film, Joss Whedon was, to his credit, you know, and Marvel and Kevin and everybody they're like, all right, we just want to kind of feather this in and lightly insinuate that there's going to be trouble down the road. And so I think, you know, the prologue to it has been really well executed, which to me is just a movie goer and someone who just loves movies and follows things and series and gets strung out on all this stuff, you know. I just appreciate the care with which it's been executed. But then I guess too, like, sometimes I have felt guilty about the jealousy or envy I've had for other people's relationships with the world, or just like that childish thing of why, you know. And because Tony's dad, Howard, so felt that Steve Rogers was the definitive American, he was like a son to him. Mm-hmm. And then there's always, as usual, all this kind of dark tragedy around everything. So, you know, it was in there. It was always in the comic books. And then I credit the Russos, the directors, for really being able to, again, keep it grounded. And once they took over the Captain America side of things, I felt like they were kind of pretty close to Favreau's original ideation of how things should be played.
So you mentioned the Russos, and I think it would be difficult enough to work with one director, but you've got two minds working. Do they always work in sync? Do you love it? What's the difference?
Well, first of all, you know, usually, I mean, there's no good cop, bad cop. They're both really flexible in the way they work. So, but then there'd be certain things, like if I was doing the HUD work where I'm like sitting with a camera 5 inches away from my face, and it's really just odd and uncomfortable. Usually Anthony would be the person to deal with that, because there's something just a little bit more receptive about him. But Joe would have done great too, and I just love watching a team work together.
Sounds like you're saying two heads are better than one here.
Yeah, Mary, it got me thinking every film should have at least two directors, because you can't get mad at everybody all at the same time.